Hello, and thank you for joining. I'm Grace, Communications Coordinator at Ann Arbor's Office of Sustainability and Innovations, and welcome to Greenlight, where we dig into sustainability in Ann Arbor with the residents who are envisioning, creating, and establishing a sustainable and equitable future for our community. Supporting these goals and presenting this series is A20, the city's plan, framework, vision, and associated actions for creating and implementing a just transition to carbon neutrality community-wide by the year 2030. Today, we're shining the green light on Jordan Larson, Community Engagement Innovator with the City of Ann Arbor's Office of Sustainability and Innovations, and Krystal Steward, Director of Community Outreach at Community Action Network. Welcome to the show, you two.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. To start us off, give the elevator pitch of who you are and what you do.
Sure. I can start us off. So with my role with Ann Arbor's Office of Sustainability and Innovations, I'm primarily supporting community engagement coordination in the office, and that can look like a few different things. We're working on developing strategy around how we want to approach community engagement overall, kind of in the long term with the office, supporting individual projects, and then helping lead some projects that we have going on already, which includes our direct collaboration with the Bryant community and the Bryant Community Center, which is why I'm super thrilled to have with me today Krystal Steward, who I get to work with closely.
Oh, thank you. So I'm Krystal Steward. I'm the Director of Community Outreach for Community Action Network. So I've been with CAN for about 2.5 years. I initially came on board as the outreach specialist, and I was part-time, and now I've kind of went up the ladder, and I'm now the director, like I said, of community outreach. So part of one of my main tasks, I oversee a lot of our community engagement things, like I host our community events, I do a lot of our community programming, and yeah, so I oversee most of our community engagement.
That's really excellent. Tell me about how the collaboration between the Office of Sustainability and Innovations and Bryant has evolved since it began.
I would say it's evolved significantly. So it kind of started out, I think, as an idea that Missy had. Missy, the director of the Office of Sustainability at the City of Ann Arbor. So she kind of brought the idea to Derek, which is my boss. And initially it was an idea to find an under-resourced neighborhood and make it the first carbon neutral neighborhood in the U.S. And so they came together to bring about the Bryant. They thought the Bryant neighborhood could, benefit from a project like this.
Absolutely. Jordan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Krystal's been working on this project since before I joined the office, and so it's been a privilege to be a capacity add and support the work that's already been going on. But even in the last 8 months since I've joined the project, it's been great to see something that initially started as just a vision of what could be possible, to then start to see what changes on the ground can look like. Going from what is our goal and what do community members want to see as part of the project, to fundraising and starting to actually do work in residents' homes, and really see the community growth around the project itself, and how much of that has come from all the amazing community organizing and event planning that Krystal's been doing.
That's awesome. Speaking of making some of those dreams real, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, which was just awarded to the Bryant Community Center, is going to allow the Community Center to become the City of Ann Arbor's first fully decarbonized building. What does that mean, and what will that look like?
Yeah, so the goal of the project as a whole is to make the entire neighborhood carbon neutral, but one of the best ways to start is with an individual building and showing what that looks like and what's possible. So with this grant, we're really fortunate to have funding to fully decarbonize the Bryant Community Center, which is a building actually owned by Parks and Recreation, but Community Action Network runs the programming out of that community center. And so to become carbon neutral, it's a process of identifying all of the current appliances and major systems of the building that currently burn natural gas and switching those over to electric appliances. And this is something that has kind of been in process at the community center for a little while. But with this funding, we're exploring switching out the heating and cooling systems, which have thus far been using gas-powered furnaces, to a geothermal heating system, which would then allow the building to be heated and cooled using electricity through heat pumps and using a geothermal loop in the backyard of the community center. We're also looking at upgrading the hot water in the building to be fully electric, and then doing a bunch of efficiency upgrades. And part of this project as well is to make the community center a quote unquote like living learning lab. And the idea behind that is to not just install some of these newer technologies and some of these fully electric and more green technologies, but to make them visibly accessible and to have some like interpretive materials to kind of go along with it. So whether it's residents or partner organizations that are interested in decarbonizing their homes or buildings could come to the community center and actually kind of understand and see and maybe even kind of touch maybe some of those upgrades that we've made. It includes expanding the solar array as part of the plan and expanding the battery backup system. We're not sure if all of those things we can accomplish this year under that particular grant, but that's the long-term vision for the building, which we're really excited for.
Wow, that's really great. That's no small undertaking. Do you have anything you wanted to add, Krystal?
I would just say it's kind of like a show and tell too, because we can show them and tell them about it so that they get a better idea of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's really great. I know, as you've mentioned, the city has a goal of making the Bryant neighborhood the first fully decarbonized neighborhood in the country, and decarbonizing the community center is a big step towards that goal. What does other work towards that goal look like?
So I would say the home improvements, like we've been renovating the home, so we have a lot of residents in the neighborhood that are older and they've been there since the neighborhood was developed. They're on fixed incomes, and so they ultimately would not have been able to fix up their homes. So the home improvements, making the homes more energy efficient with the electrification upgrades, the solar panel upgrades, so just a lot. Really cool stuff, that's really helping folks that couldn't have afforded it otherwise. So,
yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that what we've kind of learned through this project is that you need to find and access a lot of different resources to make these kinds of things happen.
Definitely, yeah.
It's a challenge to identify grants and different opportunities. But we've been really fortunate, working together with Canon and our office to win a number of different funding awards that have made a lot of this work possible. And so while we're doing work at the community center, we also now have funding to cover, I think, at least 60 homes.
Yep, it's up to 60 now, yeah. And we've already done like 20. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And that funding itself covers up to $25,000
for
of
each
improvements
home.
for each home.
Wow.
So making significant strides in, not only the improvements that could make homes carbon neutral, which is, kind of the stated goal, but, making sure that homes are safe and repaired, and if there are major issues that residents are concerned with, that we're tackling those as well. Because if someone has a damaged roof or needs some mold remediation, like that
We've
should
actually
come
had
first,
that happen in
right?
one of the homes. So
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's really cool to hear about. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've come across a lot of different things, like through the energy assessments that we've done. Like we found that one home had issues with electrical wiring, which could have eventually caused a fire to the home. So we were able to fix that through funding. There was another resident, an older resident, that of course had a gas stove that was not in good shape, and so that stove could eventually cause a fire. So we were able to replace that stove for that resident. So we've come across a lot of different things that they wouldn't have otherwise known, that could have been a hinder to their health, their safety, so yeah.
That's really excellent. It's really cool to hear about how this relationship is kind of reciprocal.
Yeah.
You helping out and helping Ann Arbor get to its carbon neutrality goals. What are some of the ways that the added capacity from OSI has changed Bryant over the past year or so?
So for me, like just having Jordan and also like the AmeriCorps, the volunteers that we have, my assistant, it's helped me a great deal because I'm able to, you know, expand my workload into other areas, especially with doing like events and more community, you know, related work. So it's helped me a great deal. Like just having them by my side and to be like my right-hand man like Jordan is, it's, you know, it's definitely beneficial. So
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, and I would even add to that as well, just to say that I think framing that question around capacity add is really important to how we've approached this work, because, you know, we as the city came to Community Action Network with this idea of, you know, seeing if we could collaborate to make Bryant the first carbon neutral neighborhood. But it's been absolutely essential that that work be done through the community center itself, and working with a trusted community partner. You know, at the end of the day, we don't want this story to be about, you know, the Office of Sustainability and Innovations is doing X, Y, and Z. You know, for residents in the neighborhood, we want it to be about them connecting with their community center and working with the community center. So when we're supporting this work, it's really, you know, how can I, with my staff time, support what Krystal needs to do to make this, you know, dream a possibility and a reality for the community. And so it's really great that we get to provide some of that capacity for the work.
Absolutely. And I love how intentional you are, not only about the work, but about the partnership itself. What are some recent projects or achievements that you're proud of?
you want to go first or you want me to?
Sounds like you've probably got a lot to brag about.
So my biggest achievement, like it makes me really happy to be able to help my neighbors. So I also live in the Bryant neighborhood, and I've lived there for 10 years. So just being able to like help my neighbors fix up their homes, you know, it's amazing. It's a really good feeling. And it took a while to gain the trust of a lot of residents in the neighborhood, you know, because not everybody believes that somebody's gonna fix up their home for free. So being able to, you know, gain that trust, and now they see like the end result that their home is now sustainable, and you know, it's a really great feeling. So for me, that's my biggest achievement, and I just want to be able to fix up more homes that, you know, need improvement. So
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, for me, I think it's very similar. It's really seeing the community that's built around the projects that we're doing, and one thing that I especially want to highlight. You know, we have different events, and we're doing projects connected to these home renovations and bringing the kind of like energy side of what we're trying to accomplish to folks. But a lot of what happens at the community center and through Krystal's work is just building community. You know, every event that we host doesn't have to be about energy efficiency. You know, it can be about celebrating a holiday and just having a reason to bring people into the community center. And even just in the, you know, handful of months that I've been supporting this project, seeing that growth in the amount of the community that comes to these events, and getting to know different residents, and being able to show up to the community center and people say, "Hey, Jordan, it's nice to see you," and know that, you know, the work that we're doing and that I get to support isn't just helping people individually in their households, but is actually building community overall. And that's just a really, really exciting thing and fun thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it's really great. I love hearing about the personal aspect of it, in addition to the work and the professional aspect and what you're doing with the grant funding. But there's a very real personal human part of this as well.
yeah, it reminds me of that saying, "It takes a village."
Yeah.
I mean, even though that saying is kind of centered around a different meaning, but essentially it kind of relates to what we're doing, because it takes a village to, you know, build a community, and we're, you know, step by step we're doing that, because we're bringing community members together, we're helping the community. So it definitely takes a village to make a difference.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
sounds
what
like
we're doing.
a great thing
Yeah.
to be a part of. How has sustainability and resilience work enhanced quality of life in the Bryant neighborhood, and how are you looking forward to enhancing quality of life in the future? I know you've kind of already touched on this.
Yeah, I think just making the homes more safe for the residents, you know, in the long haul, like for their future. And then you have residents that are raising their children or grandchildren. So it's generations of families in these homes, and making them safer and sustainable for the future generations it's big. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, and in this project, we know that to be successful, we won't be successful if all we do is electrify all of the homes. In this project, it is absolutely essential that in providing the resources that we're providing, that we're also reducing utility costs, and as Krystal mentioned, making homes healthier and safer. And so knowing that the outcomes for residents is decreasing utility bills, and that's helping stabilize families, and it's helping people stay in their homes. Like, those are the pieces of the project that are absolutely critical, and are things that are things that we're especially proud of. It's one thing to just check off a box and say we made a neighborhood carbon neutral, but if in that process you raise people's utility bills, and like if you did that in one way as opposed to the way that we've been trying to approach it, I think that you wouldn't have a quality of life improvement. And so ensuring that just quality of life is at the center of the project is something that's really important to us.
That's really great. And kind of leads into my next question, which is part of A20's mission is to be transformative. How does your work transform the community while still preserving the elements of what brings the community together?
You want me to take that first?
yeah, you can take that first.
Sure. Yeah, I think that when we talk about the work being transformative, we're thinking about the ways that we power our homes and the emissions impacts that those things have. But I also think that at the end of the day, part of what makes it transformative is that you can do that without necessarily changing how a community looks or how a community feels. We want to make sure that that these improvements that we're making in people's homes, this allows them to stay in their homes long term. And so I think it's part of the project that you can drive through the Bryant neighborhood now, and it doesn't necessarily look different in terms of who lives there or what you're seeing than it did 2 years ago. But what's changing on the insides of homes is perhaps changing. And the only other thing that I would maybe add there as well is that part of what I think is transformative for folks outside of the concrete changes that we're making in homes, and that's related to energy, is again that community building component. And if anything, we're hoping to see more instances of neighbors getting to know each other, people coming to community events, and that building of community atmosphere and connection. While at the end of the day, the work that we're doing in homes to transform our in-home systems, that's stuff that can kind of stay in the background a little bit.
Absolutely.
I think you covered it.
That was a really great answer. What are some upcoming projects that you're looking forward to?
So for me, it's a project that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. And so it involves yard work for the residents in the neighborhood. So I've noticed that there's a lot of homes, that they're not able to maintain their yards. And that could be for a variety of reasons. We have a lot of older residents and they're just not able to do it. So that's been a project that I've really wanted to do, like I said, for quite some time. And so just getting volunteers to be able to come out to the neighborhood and just, do yard work for folks free of charge is, something that I'm working really hard on. Almost had it going, but now I'm back to square one. But that's something that I'm hoping to get going soon. So that's one of them. Then we have a community festival that we've been doing now for the past 2 years, which will also be happening this summer. And then also our annual community cleanup. So, yeah.
Wow.
And also planning to do a community yard sale for the neighborhood soon as well. So,
what does the community cleanup look like?
So it is an event that we've done annually for years, even before I was on staff. And what it involves is, a lot of residents, they acquire things over the years and aren't able to actually dispose of them because there's a cost, if you have someone come out to get these items or to take them to the city recycling center. So a lot of folks tend to just throw them in their yard or in their basement. And So we do the cleanup so that folks are able to dispose of items that they no longer need free of charge. And we rent out dumpsters and we put them on one of the streets in the neighborhood, and then we go around and we pick up the items for folks. So that can include like big furniture items, electronics, just a variety of things. So it's a really good event. People look forward to it because they're holding on to these things and they're like, I'm just gonna, put it to the side until next year's community cleanup. So it's a really big event.
That's really great. That sounds really beneficial and just convenient.
Yeah, and it helps the neighborhood too because we're freeing the neighborhood of debris that could, cause other health and safety issues, and pollute the air. So it's a really good event.
Yeah. What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, first off, what Krystal was saying is just a good example of how every month there's some fun community event that's happening. And so every month I look forward to, whatever it is that we're working on next and just getting to be a part of all of those. When it comes to some of the project work that we're doing, I think one of the things that's really exciting for me is that we're in the midst right now of working through a planning grant that we got from the Department of Energy to design a district geothermal system that in the future could have the potential to serve all of the heating and cooling needs for the entire neighborhood, as well as a few commercial spaces outside of the neighborhood, including the Bryant Middle School or Elementary School and a few other sites as well. And in the last couple months, we've had some workshops with residents around what residents would want to see from the design of that project. And it's a really innovative and exciting project to potentially see, again, what could be a transformative change to heating and cooling in the neighborhood. And so I'm just especially excited to see that project come together in the next couple months and have our team deliver the final project design. And there might be an opportunity to get funding for implementation from the Department of Energy based on our design. So that's been just a really cool process to be a part of and to know that that decision will be coming up in the next few months.
Congratulations, that's really exciting. Could you give me a quick overview of what a geothermal system is or what that means?
Yeah, so essentially a geothermal system takes advantage of the fact that the ground underneath our feet is a relatively constant temperature. And a geothermal system is essentially a system of pipes that exist underground that exchanges heat from a fluid that runs through that pipe and with the heat that's in the ground. So the ground roughly is always around 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And so with the fact that you can transfer that heat into a fluid, for instance, you can then use a piece of equipment called a heat pump, which can then pull heat out of or put heat back into that fluid as it flows through the system. So essentially the way it works is that in the winter time, that system is pulling heat from the ground, and then that fluid that's circulating through the system comes into a point of contact with each of the buildings in the loop, and then that heat pump pulls heat out of that and heats your air. And then in the winter it does the exact opposite. It's pulling heat out of the air in your home and putting that into the system, and then that stores that heat underground. So essentially it's like a heat battery that works both for heating and cooling in the summer and in the winter. And it's extremely efficient, and once you set it up, can last a really, really long time. So it's an opportunity to basically change our utility from gas for heating to just a renewable and sustainable all-electric form of heating and cooling.
Wow, thank you. That was a really great explanation.
There's a lot to dig into. Geothermal is a really cool thing if you haven't heard about it before.
Yeah.
So recommend looking into it a little bit if you haven't.
Yeah, and really cool to hear that it might be coming to the Bryant neighborhood soon. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
I would just say, if folks want to learn more about Community Action Network, they can go to our website at canwashington.org. We also now have a web page on our website that is, that talks about our sustainability project. So that's really cool. So yeah, and also they can follow us on Facebook and Instagram if they like to learn more about CAN.
Excellent.
Yeah, I couldn't recommend highly enough getting to know CAN. They operate many different community centers in Washtenaw County. And so again, a great organization to support if you can. And then on our side for our office, always recommend following our newsletter. There's always a lot of exciting content that we get to share there. And just a couple months ago, we had a newsletter that was dedicated to information about this project.
Oh, wow.
So if, again, you want to learn a little bit more about the project that we've been working on from our office's side, we'd recommend you check out that newsletter for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for joining today and for sharing so much about the excellent work that you are doing.
Thanks,
Thank
Grace.
you.
Thanks for having us.
You can learn more about the work happening in the Bryant neighborhood online, as Krystal said, at canwashtenaw.org, and more about A20 by visiting a20.org. Have a question you want to ask to a sustainability expert in the city of Ann Arbor? Let us know at sustainability@a2gov.org. This has been Greenlight. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.